Today, I will be doing a review of Maverick at Cedar Point. Maverick is a ride that's in my top 3 coasters that I've been on, and I think that this ride is debatably the best ride at Cedar Point, which is crazy because they have Steel Vengeance, which is amazing. But Maverick is filled with so many intense airtime moments, lateral whips, and good inversions. But other than that, let's dive into the very first ever Intamin Blitz. Let's start with the entrance of the ride and the queue line. Overall, the entrance is pretty good, but not amazing. It just has the Maverick words with a horse behind it, which is cool, I guess, but it's not amazing. It also rests on some old-looking wood, which is pretty cool. That kind of ties into the theme of this ride, but again, it's not overly themed. Also, there's a sign kinda out by the midway that has a horse from before on a wanted poster, which is pretty cool and helps tie into the theme of this ride and the whole area that it kinda sits in. But onto the queue, it's just like any other ride at Cedar Point, it's not very good. It's just switchbacks that go back and forth forever. But at least 75% of these rides are under shade, so waiting in line for these attractions during these hot and dusky days aren't really that bad. But once you go through the line, you reach the station, and it's a little bit different than most roller coasters. There are actually 2 coasters in the station at once, which isn't usual. But you actually board the train, and also there actually are bins on this ride, which are really nice because you can put all your stuff in and not have to ride with them, so you don't gotta worry about losing your stuff. You actually sit down, and you're met with the Maverick restraints, which are okay, but could be better. I get that people could get whiplash, but these restraints are just so bulky and annoying. Plus, it's very easy to get stapled since it's just a metal bar that sits on your lap, and you got those vests, which are kinda restrictive. But onto the ride. You launch up the 105-foot tall lift hill using LSMs, and it's definitely faster than a normal lift hill, but there aren't really any forces from the launch itself. But you crest the top and hit the best drop in the park. It really is insane, just dropping 95 degrees, which is the steepest at Cedar Point. The ejector is so strong and powerful, and for what it is, it's really good and would benefit from being taller, but just hitting that angle in such a short amount of time really is what gives it its intensity. You make a right-hand turn and hit some very fast-paced turns. You're whipped from right to left so fast, and these elements are the real reason why Maverick has these bulky restraints. And while you're in these valleys from turn to turn, you're crushed with positive G's, and it's just so intense. Like, it's crazy. It's up there with Raptor for the most intense moments in the park. You continue left, hitting another turn to the right. This whip from left to right is just as intense as the other one, and it has amazing sustained positive G's the entire time as well. Next, you're thrown into a airtime hill. The ejector on this thing is so crazy. The ejector on this hill is pretty similar to the first drop, since you're rising through this element so quickly. It's not very sustained compared to many airtime moments in the park, but the ejector is otherworldly. After that, you take a gradual right turn into the horseshoe roll. It's just 2 0G rolls separated by a turn, and I don't really understand the hate for these elements. People say that it's the worst part of the ride, and it's kind of a break in the ride, but it's just 2 0G rolls, and who hates a 0G roll? They're both floaty and just really fun. And I get that it's not as intense as the other moments on the ride, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad element. You take a right-hand turn, reach the halfway point of the ride. You actually stop right underneath the station, and you come to a almost complete stop. But then you're slowly moving forward and hit the 70-mile-per-hour launch. This launch is really good, and if it wasn't for Top Thrill 2/Top Thrill Dragster, it would easily be the best launch in the park. And getting flashbanged by the sun while taking a left turn is so intense and fun, and it's arguably the whippiest moment on the ride because it has such a small turn radius after this 70-mile-per-hour launch. After the launch, you rise into a trim brake, sadly. I obviously wish that it wasn't here, but on ride, you can't really feel a difference in the speed from before the launch and after, so for me, it's not horrible. You take a wide right turn over the water, which is very scenic on ride and off, and really doesn't have any extreme forces, but the next elements is really what's intense. You take a S-turn and reach maybe the whippiest element in the world, the Stangled Dives. You get thrown from left to right so quickly that it actually just could give you someone whiplash if it wasn't for these restraints. Also, there are not just one Stangled Dives, but there are 2 of these things, and the second one is even crazier. You're riding right and rise up and thrown to the left so quickly and incredibly fast that it shouldn't be legal. Legitimately one of the craziest elements on the coaster and the world, and if you've been on this element, you understand how mind-boggling it is. After that, you hit another airtime hill, and it's really close to the ground, so it's more like a speed hill that has great sustained ejector airtime and a great sequence of events to end this incredibly intense ride experience. You slam into the brakes with a surprisingly amount of speed, and I wish that the ride kinda was a little bit longer, but that might be greedy of me since it's already a solid 1 minute ride and over 4,000 feet long, so a pretty good experience and has a good length to it. This ride is amazing, and this ride would be the #1 roller coaster for almost any park in the world. And I'm also so glad that this ride could even come into existence because originally it was meant to be a B&M floorless, and this intimate masterpiece would have been so much better than anything that B&M could have put in this plot of land. But the mix of amazing airtime moments, intense G-forces, the crazy launch, and relatively smooth experience for its age, and you have a fantastic coaster. But in the end, I give Maverick a 9.5 out of 10, and the over hour-and-a-half line that this thing usually gets is well worth this experience. Comment down below what you guys think of Maverick, and other than that, have a good day.